Hey everybody, welcome to Athlete on Fire. Scott Jones, your host. Athlete on Fire has been a podcast or some type of brand since 2014. Sat up in my dad's bedroom on a Saturday afternoon and recorded the first episode with a crappy little microphone just to see if it was something I could figure out from a technical standpoint, and it worked out. It's pretty cool. I still have that episode to this day somewhere in the archives, so you can check that out. I'm going to get into the video piece a little bit more. I think it's going to be fun to bring people on, and definitely going to be recording a lot more. It's evolved over the years, and I have a format I want to follow, kind of a format I want to follow. Seems interesting to me. I'm very scatterbrained, so I need a little structure, even though it's not going to feel like it's very structured. But it's evolved from interviewing, like world-class athletes and adventurers in every sport. It got into more of the adventure and endurance athletes. I just found that people who go spend hours and hours in the mountains on the trails in their training have lots of time to think about what they think. And it made for really, really good conversations. And then I kind of got into the sports myself, and I was missing the competition and the training for things that I had as a high school and college athlete. And it's been great. It's been a really cool world. Most people are really amazing in this world. And, I still have my foot in team sports stuff, coaching my kids and training athletes in those worlds as well. But a lot of it's in the endurance world. And the goal of Athlete on Fire, as it has evolved, is just to share the adventures I've had in life and business, and the friends and networks that are a part of my life right now, and bring those guys and gals on, doing more short form stuff just to keep in the loop, and then just work on this muscle of getting in front of the camera and being able to talk coherently. And for me, it's just a way to formulate my own thoughts and feelings about the world around us, and usually keeping it pretty positive and keeping it in that adventure and family and business and entrepreneurial world. Lots of training advice along the way. Of course, I have my master's in exercise science. I've been coaching for over 20 years, which is freaking crazy. Which, by the way, shout out to daggone, I don't have his name in front of me. I met a guy out of the Moab 240, which is a 240-mile race in Moab, Utah. And I was out there volunteering for a couple of days. And we were talking about coaching and training and stuff. And I told him I'd been coaching for 20 years, and he did a double take. So he thought there's no way that I could have been coaching that long, because he thought I was a lot younger, guys. That's a good thing. Anyway, today I'm going to bring on a buddy and a client who is out of Oregon, Redmond to be exact. And we kind of hit it off a year ago with a story we'll share. He's been training himself and his wife, who are both clients of mine right now. We've become really good friends. We've hung out on both coasts in the States, and had some crazy adventures together. He's got a lot of background in leadership, and he's coached youth sports. His kids are both in high school athletes. So we'll bring him on, talk a little bit about leadership, and have a fun story to share about how we first met, and how it kind of shaped our relationship. So we'll bring him on here in a second. I'm always going to do a shout out to my family. I'm creating some technology in the audio space right now as we speak that's going to launch fairly soon. And the whole idea is that, like, we all deserve meaningful audio. And my kids are too young to want to or care to listen to what I do professionally right now. But I just have a feeling like one day, I know I lost my dad. I know that for a fact. If my dad would have had a podcast when he was in the middle of his peak profession, that he would have I would definitely have listened to what he had to say and what his thought processes were. So I'm gonna talk to and about my family a lot on this thing. So shout out. We got a shout out for both of my boys. We got Wyatt and West. Wyatt's 11, West is 9. And they've been working really hard on certain things. But one thing I'm really proud of them right now is they wanted a treehouse. They wanted me to build a treehouse. We moved out to the mountains right in the smack dab middle of COVID. April 3rd is when we closed on this house in 2020. And it's a perfect yard for a tree house. I knew it was. I knew they'd want it. We talked about it. It kind of came along with the dog because we had a big yard. And it was in the middle of COVID, and like prices for wood were I don't know, 50x. It was something stupid. Like a sheet of 4x8 wood that I could get for, I don't know, $15 now, or even before COVID was like $90. It was a real thing. And I kindly told my children that there's no way in the world they were going to get a $2,000 treehouse. So there's lots of scrap wood on the property. And finally, I'd never want to be the dad who says he's going to do something and never follows through. I could just imagine in I don't know, 15 years when they're adults talking about the treehouse I never built them. So got the wood, got all the stuff figured out, filled in the blanks from the scrap that I didn't have. We're using all this warped wood to build this little thing, and I let them help design it. They designed like a 4x8 basically giant shoebox that you could get on top, and there's like a little trap door from underneath. It's really cool. I'll share some pictures on the socials. And they came out there and they drove the build out. I did a lot of the big stuff without them, just from a safety standpoint. But when we got into like just drilling and uh, teaching them how to use some of the tools and how to square things up and how to use the level, and by no means is it perfect, but I had a lot of really good quality time with my grandfather and building stuff and just passing that stuff down. They're willing participants, which is pretty sweet. So Wyatt West, good work on working hard and trying to build something that you really want. And that those lessons of working hard for something and knowing that you can't build a friggin' treehouse overnight was just kind of important. And then quick shout out for a couple clients. I got Katie and Bailey, who went out and tried their hardest to keep their bodies together. A Javelina 100, which is a 100-miler down in Arizona. It's 5 20-mile loops, always the last weekend of October. And Bailey came out with a 100K to her name, and Katie came out with a 100-miler to her name. So friggin' impressive just to get out there and see what their bodies were able to do. And we'll be talking to those ladies on the show soon as well, which is a good segue to my dude Cale Pearson, who's got the creepiest freaking background right now. What the hell are we looking at here? Is that the It Clown right there?
That's the It from Stephen King. Remember that?
Oh yeah, my kids are obsessed with it, and they've never seen it. I think so many kids at the middle and elementary school level talk about this, from having older siblings and parents that talk about it. I've never seen it. I don't like scary movies. I'm good.
Uh, yeah, I don't like it either. I saw it when I was, yeah. It just we had a Halloween themed meeting not too long ago, so it was still on there as my background. I thought it would be good entertainment for you.
It's great. Well, that balloon, like I said, I've never seen the movie. I know there's a scene where like the balloon's hanging out of the sewer or something like that. We were walking
Yep.
around trick or treating the other day, and there's a balloon hanging out in front of somebody's yard over the wash off sewer thingy, and my kids thought it was hilarious. Anyway, Cale, what's up, man? Hey, introduce yourself really quick, because I'm doing these shows and bringing on friends and networks and family and stuff, and we know each other really well, but let's introduce yourself to the audience here.
Sure, appreciate that. Cale Pearson, professionally, a couple different things. Run a freight brokerage. If you don't know what that is, we move things that are in stores. It could be anything from groceries to paper products to heavy equipment, industrial stuff, steel, lumber. A little bit anything that moves on a truck, we'll move it. And then as well, leadership development, really big into developing people's leadership skills through Crestcom with our program, and just trying to make an impact however small I can in this world, and help develop more people and keep that process going. And also like to trail run. Obviously, that's how we met. And Scott's my coach. Been a year now, I think, a little
Yeah,
over a
almost
year.
exactly. Just about.
Yeah. Just getting out there, and it's pretty amazing community. I was with you watching Javelina updates, and Dave actually sent me the live tracker on Jen, so I could watch it really, in real time, just minusculely. But just, love the community, love what people are doing, and putting themselves out there, like-minded people, and excited to see what we're going to do here today.
Oh, it's so funny. Yeah. Yeah. For literally two guys who come from like kind of team sports background with our kids and stuff that we did back in the day, to go to a sport as adults that is probably the least spectator friendly sport on the face of the planet Earth here. I mean, you're waiting 20, 30 hours for somebody to
Yep.
cover distance, but you're just kind of curious if they're still in the fight, because crap happens out there. DNFs happen all the time with this distance, and it has nothing to do, nothing, it has nothing to say that people weren't prepared. It's just part of the deal. Like you can have a bad day on the trail, like you can have a bad day anywhere else. And I don't know, me and Cale have always, man, we hit it off really quick as far as just being friends right off the bat. And we're gonna tell a fun story on how our friendship was kind of set up. We've told the story a bunch, but not on Athlete on Fire. And then just the fact that we both, like, even though we're in completely different industries, like the leadership aspects of coaching and what you do in a business setting, it all translates well. So we've always kind of brainstormed things back and forth and shared, frustrations in both worlds and ways that we can get better. And it's just good to have people that are pushing me in different ways, and I get to push you in different ways as well, physically, which is pretty cool. So
Yep.
setting it up, and I'm going to let you tell a story in your way, and I'm going to tell it mine, and we'll both probably talk a little shit along the way, which is hilarious. But last September, I put on this trail camp through Becoming Ultra up in the high Rockies here in Colorado, and it's always just an epic time. We have people come from all over the country to just go hang out and learn a little bit about themselves and about trail running and all that good stuff. And there's always one day that we do a really long effort. And sometimes it's a big loop, so it's easy to manage. And sometimes it's an A to B, which is a little less easy to manage, because you're dealing with, making sure you have a sweeper to keep everybody in the right spot and stuff. So that's the setup. I'm going to let you tell the story first, and I'm going to tell my version. We'll see how close we are, because we've done this a few times.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. So when we were going to trail camp, I think the longest I'd ever done was 15 miles. And this was going to be an 18 miler on the third day, I believe, so we had a lot of miles in front of that. In the high country, obviously, I think our base was at 9,000 feet elevation, and we're doing the Colorado Trail, like you mentioned, and we had been split up into groups based on kind of how everybody had done the previous couple of days. And my wife, Megan, and I, and Muriel, and Christy were the quote unquote slow group that day. And we just started out cruising, a beautiful day. I mean, picture perfect day, really. And we were just kind of getting into it. I don't even know if we were 3 to 4 miles in, really. And Scott came back to us and was like, man, we're going to turn you guys around at the halfway point. And, it was a really quick conversation. And then he took off. Instantly, I was pissed, because I was like, I didn't come all the way here to do whatever the halfway was. I think it was 12 miles or something, something like that. I came to do the 18. I think I told you, I was like, hey, we're pacing fine. I always finish faster, those sorts of things. And then you took off. And then when you took off, I looked at Megan, and I could probably say it this way, because this is how I said it. I said, that motherfucker's testing me. But I was still pissed, because I'm competitive. And we were going pretty slow. We'd taken some breaks, and, probably a little more than we should as a group, because we were just trying to stay together. Because we early in trail camp, I think we had a couple stragglers wander off or get lost, so we were trying to be good teammates on the trail. And but once he took off, I put my poles up, looked at Megan, and she's like, just go. And so I took off running, and a little bit further up, caught up with you, and retold that story to you. And I think your response to me was like, if you're ever in a race and the race director says he's going to pull you, just do the same damn thing. Just take off and just go. Because I think so much of it is like, what is the fight that's in that person, and are they willing to fight for it? And so I think it was an awesome moment. We ended up finishing and getting done. I don't know. I think it was right at 6 hours, I want to say. I think that was our goal time as a group. So felt good. We did pick up pace, but the concerns were legit, because, there was some serious climbing in there that we had before we got to the top. And so that's certainly going to be slower than even just a normal, just kind of power hike on flat ground. So there you go.
Oh, and there's some lessons in there. And that's why I think that's why we've told this story so many times. And a couple of the lessons, first of all, like at a trail camp, it's a different experience than working one-on-one with an athlete. Like if it was just you and Megan out there, and I said, hey, this is the goal, let's see what you got. Like the dynamic would have been different, but I didn't know you guys for more than a couple days at that point. Like we were just hanging out at the camp. So the point wasn't like to throw you under the bus, but one of the lessons is from a coaching standpoint, one thing I do, and it's probably obvious to you guys by now, is like I don't give you everything you need to go do a certain thing. Like there's, especially as adults in what we're trying to get out of these efforts, whether it's at the gym or going for a long run or even training for some team sports stuff, is like you've got to figure some of it out on your own, and that's what makes you a better athlete and it makes you more resilient. And there were some things working against you. We've had runners at these camps that were legitimately like stragglers and would have had almost an impossible time getting up that big climb that you had at the end. So I gave one of our volunteers and pacers like enough information, like, hey, this is where it needs to go. And so she was part of your pacing group, and you guys probably had more in the tank than that. But yeah, just understand, like, just being able to adjust on the run and change your intensity is exactly what you guys did. But I did love it because I told you guys and I saw you getting irritated and I didn't know you yet. And like deep down, like that shit just makes me laugh. And
Mm-hmm.
it's part of probably why I've been coaching so long. Like you just love making people work, and I love working myself. So I told you that. Then I sprint up, like I run a pretty good little clip for about a mile, and I go hide behind these trees to see if you guys are going to make it or not. And I was watching you, and your poles were gone. You're holding them in your hand now. You weren't using them for like a joy hike or anything like that. And you're hammering pretty good. And your wife and Muriel are a little bit behind you, but they're moving pretty well too. And that's when you caught up to me and we had that discussion. But I love it because you're like you thought I was testing you. It wasn't necessarily a personal test, but it was a test all in all, and it was just kind of a fun memory.
Yeah.
And that whole idea of like, I don't know, being adamant about getting from A to B, especially during races, happens in business all the time, man. Like these things happen to me all the time, and I think it's like a sign that I need to push harder to get through something, to get to the other end where the benefit's going to be. But I feel like the world sometimes conspires against you to make you want to quit things. It happens every other week for me. So
Yeah.
that lesson in and of itself is freaking huge. Like just because somebody else is telling you something, I mean, you could have done a big FU and said, "Hey, I don't care about your pace. I'm gonna do this thing. This is my experience." It probably would have worked out to your benefit too.
Yeah.
But I love that story. So taking that story into some of your world of leadership, and this will be the last thing we do today. Is there anywhere that applies to your day to day and things that you're trying to pass down to clients and in your world?
Oh man, it's probably every day because I coach or manage a lot in the same ways where it's like I'm going to give you enough, but I have to know that you have it within you to take it to that finish line. Because I mean, I had a conversation with somebody that I work closely with a couple months back, and it was the one thing with me when I'm working with people is I'm going to be very honest. And it was we'd had some very honest conversations, and it kept escalating politely and professionally. But it was like it finally came down to where it's like, if I'm doing all this and I'm paying you to do it, that's not going to continue to work, because it's like I've hired you to do a certain thing and I need you to do it, and I'm empowering you and I'm helping you and I'm guiding you, but I can't also do it.
Right.
And I've seen that person respond well. I've seen other people say, you know what, it's not for me. And either way, we've moved off of center. And I think that's the biggest thing in leadership is like, we have to know where we are. Are we wanting to move and push harder? With leadership, one of the things too, I really push people to take care of themselves too, because I see it a lot and I've lived it where I haven't taken care of myself like I do now, but it's so important for us to show up ready. And if we're not doing that, we're doing ourselves and everybody we're working with a disservice. So, I coach people hard to work hard, but also take care of themselves and do the things so that they can be there. So they don't have those Sunday scaries when they start thinking about work the next day. It's like maybe they're excited about something that's upcoming and who they work with or what they're doing. And it's so critical to have that well-rounded approach, because Megan and I have a saying, I think I actually adopted it from her, and is how you do one thing is how you do everything. And, you can't be all in on one thing and then not all in on other things. So it's important to build that muscle. And right now in the climate, is from a business perspective, there's a lot going on with the economy. It's definitely slowing. It's going to bring its own set of challenges. You still have unemployment really low, but you have businesses that are going to start doing layoffs. There's a lot of stuff going on out in the economy that we have to know where we're going and why it's important. Um, because if not, it's easy to quit and give up.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's why I think it's important for adults especially to go find things that are in and of themselves really, really challenging, so that when the really challenging things come and happen to you, you're already working that muscle, like you said. That's
Yeah.
huge. Awesome, man. So hey, do you have a couple more minutes? I'm going to go through my little list here, and if you have you might have some feedback on a couple of these things. You want to hang out
Sure.
for 3 or 4? Okay, cool. All right. So on all these, I'm gonna share some training advice or a set or something like that. I'm pretty sure you've done these in your training. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Lunge miles. Have you done those yet?
Yep.
Okay. So for people listening, this is how you do lunge miles, and this is why we do them. First of all, it's to run on tired legs without having to go do 30 miles in a day. So if you live somewhere, I've done this with a lot of Florida and Texas runners as clients. If you live somewhere like Florida and you're going to go do a big mountain race like Leadville or something in Colorado or out here, and sand is a great tool. Stairs at the condo and the ballparks are a good tool. The bridges are okay, but you just can't get the same type of fatigue that you would get on a big mountain. So I came up with these lunge miles a couple years ago, and basically how I do it with runners is every mile you get 10 lunges on each leg. You can do step back lunges, you can do traveling forward lunges, you can do lunge jumps. I don't care. I just want your glutes fired off. I want your quads getting a little more tired, and I want you to get out of that set as quick as you can back into your next mile. So for somebody like Cale, who's doing a lot of volume right now, it might be 7 miles of mile lunges, which would be 70 lunges per leg by the time you're done. And it doesn't seem like a lot in the beginning, but it definitely it adds up, and it teaches you how to push through some tired legs that you're manufacturing in a shorter set. For people who aren't endurance athletes and you want to implement something like this, hopping on a treadmill in the wintertime and doing a quarter mile or like a 2-minute set, and then hopping off and doing 5 to 10 lunges per leg for 30 minutes instead of for a really long time it would be the same stimulus with a little bit different goal, because you'd be pushing a little harder. But that's the stimulus you're looking for. That's the goal. If you guys give it a shot, start with like 3 to 5 miles if you are runners, and just see what that feels like. Most people know how to do lunges with good form. I'm not going to dive in on that too much, but that's the set. So since I do have a client right here who's done this set before, the first time you did it, what was your takeaway? And if you've done it since then, have you gotten better at it, and has it gotten easier mentally? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. The first time I saw it, I was like, what? um, but it's so hard with these long distances to create that fatigue that you get, mile 25 and past, or when, like Telluride, the big vert, when you're getting, 5,000 feet of vert in a short amount of time. So it's really hard to recreate that, and know how your body and your mind is going to respond. So I liked it because it did fatigue quicker in a different way. And I think it's just, again, having those experiences to draw back on, when you are in a hard spot. It's like, hey, I've done hard things before, because usually our mind quits so much earlier than our body's willing to.
Oh yeah.
Or needing to. And so I enjoyed it. I'm kind of, I don't know if you call it sadistic in a way. I like those things that challenge me, because we just don't know how much we have that we don't utilize or use, unless we're tested.
Yep.
So I really enjoyed it.
Love it. All right, give that a shot. And then I got one last thing before we wrap up. I'm gonna try to give some kind of resource that I'm kind of into, or mostly from the tech side or things that we can find online. It's a really popular resource right now, but I think a lot of people still don't know about it. Substack is a longer form place where you can write and do like blog style writing without having to have your whole own website, for people who want to just get in and share their thoughts. And I really like writing. I've never committed myself to it like I need to from a business standpoint. I know it's really important for creating content and good copy, but to share stories in that medium is always going to be powerful, I think. So Substack is pretty cool. You can subscribe to people, you can support people. It's kind of like a Patreon mashup, because you can charge people for your content, or you can give that option. I'm actually about to dive in on this bad boy. I think this would actually be really good for you, Cale, because
Yeah.
in your world, you're trying to think about how you think about things. And that sounds goofy, but like until you articulate either in a conversation like this or on paper, I think things become a lot clearer. So it might be something really good for you, but I'm going to start writing under Athlete on Fire over there and seeing if I can put some coherent sentences together on paper. Who the heck knows? I'm not very bright. So it's going to be a nice little challenge, but there's lots of good things to read in there, from training principles to business, a lot of entrepreneurial stuff that I love. So go check that out, substack.com. And yeah, we'll share some of those resources every time we hop on here. Is there anything out there that you're like, that you've started using, or a unique resource that people might not know about? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but
Yeah. Well, I haven't heard of Substack, so I'll have to check it out. Trying to think if there's a resource. I think what I just try to do is stay up with trends. LinkedIn is pretty well known, just to see what's out there. Don't necessarily post a lot of stuff, but just you can see the sentiment in the market always changing based on where the economy is. And I've always tried to be ahead of it. I'll give you an example that I was talking to one of my coworkers about recently, that, a year ago in transportation, it was all about growth and top line revenue and all this stuff, and nobody cared about making money, which I've always cared about making money, because if you don't make money, you can't keep the lights on long term.
yep.
But in that space of transportation, there's a lot of private equity money. There's a lot of funding going on about a year ago, where people were just chasing that top line growth. And now it's flipped to where it's like, oh, you got to make money. And it's so funny, because I've always said you chasing the top line is fine as long as you're able to increase the bottom line too. And, so I'm always just trying to read into how easily we are to give into what's being marketed to us. Right. And I'm always trying to dig a layer or 2 or 10 deeper than what they're telling me and what their objective is. And so for me, I love that, the complexity of business from that standpoint. And you see a lot of that in LinkedIn, because it's just people's thoughts. So it's probably similar to what you're saying with Substack.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I used to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn early on, and there's a point where I just considered myself unemployable, where I was like, maybe I'm just wasting time over here because I'm such a pain in the ass, man. We love our freedom in the Jones household, and there's a lot of hustle and a lot of chaos, but at the end of the day, it does pretty well. So yeah, I haven't been on there. I have to get back on that bad boy.
Yeah.
Awesome, Cale. And listeners, thank you guys so much for joining us. I got away from Athlete on Fire for a while because it's building Becoming Ultra, something I'm still passionate about, and we're going to continue to build. But yeah, hop back on there. Athlete on Fire is where you can find us on all the podcast shows, obviously, and subscribe. Give us a little love. We haven't asked for reviews in probably 2 years, so if you want to get a review, it helps us get out there to a little bit more of an audience out there. So really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Cale.
Thank you.